long-term capital gains tax is always lower than short-term capital gains tax. Okay, suffice to say, and there are, you can talk to esteemed colleagues from Deloitte, or you could talk to Raghu, right, who is an authority, or Mr. Lakhotia, who is associated with Princeton. There are ways of saving that taxes. I'm not getting there, please. Right? If you have a query, I'll answer it, but I'm not getting there for want of time. Suffice to say that long-term capital gains tax, short-term near, long-term capital gains tax, you can save, right, by certain investments, not short-term, long-term you can save. Thanks again for that question. Very nice question. This, Mr. Mayur, na? Fantastic. But please note, as per income tax, there is no problem. You will have to only see whether it is classified as stock in trade or it is classified as an asset. Income tax is not, very nice question, does not go with your MOA AOA. We are directly hitting the loophole in the system. I hope I'm not giving ideas to income tax, but are you getting the point? For them, it is simple taxation. The day all of these guys agree on the same set of principles, right? Some of you are smiling. Then this loophole is gone. Thanks, thanks. Now I understand. Yeah, please. I will come to you also. Always a pleasure.
Residential unit is also classified in the same manner as land is. So,
see, now there are questions coming. Okay, first your question, please.
So, your flat is sold within 3 years. It is short term, and beyond 3 years, it's long term. So, short term is, but we can say short term by investing the same thing, reinvesting the same thing in under construction property.
Bede, this is what I thought. Okay, I'll not, though I said I will not answer this, I'll still answer this if you are saying this with so much authority. No problem. Reinvestment in bonds, buying another residential property for saving capital gains tax, this is only applicable for, I'll raise it again, for long-term capital gains tax. Short-term, आपको देना ही देना है. तो अगर आप किसको advise, right? It goes with indexation or without indexation. Yeah, with or without 10% and 20%, right? With indexation. Please note, it is 3 years and above. So if you are planning to sell any property, I am now getting concerned. Try and hold it for 3 years. All that bonds and etc. is after the holding period of 3 years and above. And एक benefit residential में खाली इतना है कि you need to only invest your capital gains part. On land रहेगा तो you have to invest your entire thing, not only, and yeah, that's a much better way. Entire sales consideration. You're getting it? Huh? I'm repeating for you because I don't know where you're going to use it. Less than, fair. No, why I'm saying is this can lead to, you may think no, suddenly when you talk, you'll see there'll be an incident. Long term, again my friend, you have to see whether you need indexation benefits or no. So you'll have to do an elaborate calculation, which is why colleagues like him are good in that. There is another chart account also. Indexation benefit or multiplier leke kijiye bete. Please, yeah.
In the memorandum, the main object.
Yes, Pranav.
We have multiple line of business.
Yes.
But at the time when the incorporation or when I filed with the PLB board, would they raise a concern because?
In fact, thank you, Mr. Pranav. This is very, very interesting. Right? 2 or 3 of it. That's also a good query. Please note, tomorrow, Ma'am, Sharad sir, Arun can go and change it also.
But to changing to it from A to B for me, but to have A and B.
Done. Sir, company law board, Pranav, all these are only concerned with one thing. India is so very liberalized now. वो लोगों को खाली एक ही देखना है कि what is the authorized capital. वो authorized capital के ऊपर have you paid stamp duty? बस बात खत्म. File close. Remaining they'll see. This is the only intent. And वो जो थप्पा लगता है sir, you've dealt with ROC and CLB. So I'll leave it to you. You are smiling, so I'll leave it to you. Right? Thank you for some very nice questions, sir. Thank you again. Now we go to depreciation. 2 types of depreciation. There are 8 headings from my side which I'll cover, and I want a discussion, and I'm really obliged. It's a wonderful discussion. 2 types of depreciation. 1 type of depreciation. Again, you'll pardon me for this. First 2-3 minutes for the basics. Then we'll talk practice. So first the basics, right? The basic says, right? The basic says that you have 2 types of depreciation, right? One is WDV, second is SLM. I'll put all the basics here, and advanced things we'll discuss on the whiteboard. WDV stands for written down value. SLM stands for straight line method. So two types of depreciation. WDV इसको उल्टा कीजिए, will not waste paper, ना, right? WDV and SLM for reporting. And this is for you. This is for the colleagues who are looking at the base. Others, just one last minute. For reporting, you can either use SLM or WDV, but as Mr. Pranav will say with utmost confidence, for taxation purposes, you don't have a choice. You have to use WDV. For taxation purposes, you have to use WDV. There, you can't really play around. So you have to have a tax schedule which goes as per WDV. Reporting, most of us follow straight line method. Most of us follow what is known as straight line method. Harish sir, any idea sir of the, I'm sure you have some idea. What is the relationship between, okay, before I get there. WDV rates you get from, I'm raising my voice, WDV rates you get from Income Tax Act. SLM rates you get from Companies Act. Okay, so these are the two sources. Okay, my experience has been for reporting, normally they use SLM. Normally, but does it mean they have to compel? No. For reporting, you can also use WDV. That's your choice. That's your choice. My experience says, right, that most of us use SLM, and if one of you all, right, get up and say, no, I have used this for my client, I'll say, good, please share the experiences. But taxation purposes, I'm raising my voice one last time, you have to go by WDV. There is no choice, whether you are an SME or a large corporate, you all have to follow WDV, written down value, which leads me to ask a simple question to Harish sir, right? Sir, what is the, simple question sir, this can go to anybody, and we can use a rule of thumb. What is the approximate, what is the relationship between WDV rates and SLM rates, senior? Any, you take any rate. Yes, right, Harish sir, absolutely right. One, I'm sure you would say something, thank you, that made a lot of sense, sir. Rates are lower in SLM, Mr. Pranav says, right, 10% difference in both. Can I give you a rule of thumb? It's a rule of thumb, right? The rule of thumb is never exact, but it gives you practical working knowledge, right? Rule of thumb is WDV rates are 3 times SLM rates. So if you say SLM rate is 10%, WDV rate approximately would be because would be roughly around 30%. Did you say SLM is about 5%, senior? Thank you for that. WDV rates, mota moti, it will come to 15%. WDV rates technically are, and this is where I have a small problem, because when we use this, and I am still associated with, right, as the introduction came in, I am still associated with the family managed business, right, sessions that is carried out at SPJ, where we train colleagues, right, who run family managed businesses, second generation. And I keep telling Mr. Vikas, who's sitting right there of Princeton, I say, I learn a lot from these kids. For a simple reason, when you go back, you will have to realize one thing. You draw a graph, and I explain to these kids of mine, you draw a graph, an SLM rate depreciation would look like this, a WDV rate would look like this. And the problem that is done in practice, and I apologize, the problem that we do in practice is, we use the same 10% rate to, thank you, to explain SLM and WDV. That is a good thing to explain what is SLM and WDV, but please note, actually these rates are 3 times. So if you take a plant and machinery, like Harish said, or a building, and you plot it, you will see that actual WDV depreciation is much higher in the initial period. Thank you. which after an inflection point starts slipping down. And this is project finance. You need to understand this as simple as it goes. What it technically means is, and I am open for any explanation, sir, and I hope I am connecting to each one of you all, right? What it technically means is, this term was used for one of my colleagues here, tax shield. What it technically means is, income tax is letting you have a very high tax shield in the initial phase. आप बचाइए, you save taxes. See now, ma'am, the rate is, this is the saving that you get, which slows down, slows down, slows down. Beyond this part, what is happening is WDV depreciation is lower than SLM. So whatever taxes you are saving here, you end up paying here, which is where Mr. Pawan was saying this. It is a case of tax deferral. Sir's question was straight on to corporate taxes. Please note, this is a classic case of tax deferral. The fact is it good or bad? And I personally believe it's a very good thing the income tax is doing. What the income tax is doing is very simple. Income tax is letting you save taxes during the initial period, save taxes, build up capacities. We will recover it at a later point of time. Doctor's question on MAT, without getting into tax, right, open for any private discussion, is related to this. Can you make it a zero tax company? I'll leave it at one line with due permission for want of time. You can't, thanks to the incidence of MAT, but please note, whenever any project finance, and some of you all wanted the third part of my discussion, projections using NPV IRR, whenever we project profit and loss, you go to the website, you will get, okay, you will get a projected. You can just download the Excel sheet, right, and, right, you will see that you can just input numbers. It's all there, free of cost, absolutely no problem. Please note, whenever you draw up a profit and loss account, there will be something known as a taxation schedule. And that taxation schedule will have, you will have to necessarily input WDV rates. While if you are reporting, just for the sake of reporting to shareholders, you can use an SLM rate. I have a simple question now that I've explained the tax purposes, and as I said to the young friend of mine, I'm open to any queries or notings. I have a simple question to start a discussion here. Why, and this is to colleagues whom I could not reach out to as of now. Why normally, let me ask this colleague of mine, senior, Mr. Khandelwal, right? I think I'll spell it wrong. Mr. Khandelwal, right? Why reporting technically, you would see most of them, I will advise them to use SLM, sir. It's simpler to calculate, okay. It's a direct hit on consultants like us. He's saying that complicated stuff we can't do, right? Sir, itna bhi bura nahi hum log. Okay, okay, it's simpler to calculate. What else? Yes, sir. The book value will be higher, right, Mr. Krishna, right? Lovely. Book value will be higher. Can I add to it? Thank you. Achha, any more points? Sorry. It's this, my friend. In the initial part, thank you, book value, thank you, simpler, thank you, accepted with absolute humility. In the initial part, SLM depreciation is lower. And in the initial part, when the entire world is glued on to see how you are performing, we would rather report a higher profit, report. We would, thank you for smiling, we would rather report a higher PAT. Taxes are paid as per WDV. But reporting purposes, rather than show that we are 30 crore company, we'll show to the world that you are a 48 crore company. And that's the reason why most of us use SLM, which is where some of you all wanted to know banks. How is it done? Here is it, sir. Can you switch over from one method to another? Answer is yes. Reporting, you can switch over from SLM to WDV, from WDV to SLM, whatever, you can switch over. practical example, and I like to share some examples with you all. See, my project finance career in CABS has taught me a lot of things, and this is one experience that I had with a company known as Surya Gears, Coimbatore-based company. Now, when we went to Surya Gears, we used to do, sir, those days, a deal, man, which was known as, a deal known as bought-out deal, which you young friends today call as private equity. Okay, in the 90s, this was known as bought-out deal. Okay, a private equity all has started now thanks to Warburg Pincus, your Klensworth, and all that FII is coming in, right? Earlier, this was there in India in a smaller dimension. We used to call it as bought-out deal. So we were doing a bought-out deal of a company by the name of Surya Gears. It's very interesting, sir. If you can really connect to it. Ashish sir, you know what happened here? We went across and did due diligence. Ma'am, I hope you're comfortable with that term. Pawan sir, the moment we did due diligence, we found that this gentleman was reporting depreciation by WDV. Reporting depreciation by WDV. And providing for huge depreciation and understating his profits. The best part of it is, every year he was adding machinery also, he was expanding, and again reporting by WDV, and again understating his profits. It's an unlisted company. He was looking to us for funding and going public. So, in a meeting like this, we sat across, Rajan is currently now with Stanchart, director, Stanchart. Rajan, me, we sat across, and first question that I asked is, Mr. Iyer, why are you doing this? Why are you reporting by WDV? Normal convention I have seen is, you can ask my colleague there, you can ask my colleague, you can ask sir there. It's a normal convention is to report by SLM. Why are you doing this WDV? And the response that he gave for me was something which I don't think any textbook will provide. But I learned. And I still call myself as a student of finance. You know what I learned, Mr. Krishna? Moment I asked this question to Mr. Iyer, he said, thank you, Mr. Menon. Right? You seem to be thinking that everybody is using SLM. Do you know where you are? I said, I know, I am in Coimbatore. Do you know how strong the labor unions are here? I said, I am not very sure. He explained why he was using WDV, sir. Ma'am, you know why he was using WDV? Because what sir said was, Mr. Iyer told me was, at the end of the year, the union guys used to come in and sit for negotiations, right? Open the profit and loss account, put the finger down on reported PAT and say, hello, 30% growth, let's talk bonus. Can we now understand? Some of you are smiling, God bless. The others who have not got it, here it is. Mr. Iyer was designing his profit and loss and balance sheet, keeping in mind one of the stakeholders. In this case, the stakeholder was employees. He was deliberately understating, and I repeat, adding capacity, keeping WDV higher, under reporting. Moment I heard it, I smiled to myself. I said, this is wonderful. Learning here, it's absolute learning. No textbooks say this, right? This can only come from somebody who runs businesses, who knows what is going to come next. My humble request to Mr. Iyer, and in all humility, I told sir, ye to abhi aapne kiya, keeping in mind employees. Now you are giving me as a bought-out deal. I have to go there and sell this to ICICI. I have to sell your company to, those days, a very big name, very big name, right? Today, I'm not sure you've heard of these firms also. NRI, these are very big players, right? In Nipun Mehta and others in bought-out deals, okay? But unfortunately, with OTCI collapsing, these guys have been washed off. And you've got a new set of foreign players today. You are giving me, I have to sell it to investors there. You want to go public, people who are investors want to see higher profits. Sir, your stakeholder has now changed. Don't prepare your profit and loss keeping in mind an employee, keep in mind the other stakeholders. I'm finishing this discussion, and I hope I've explained. Can you change from one method to another reporting wise? Answer is yes. It was not only changed, and please note, I won't look at some faces when I say this. Sir, please note, his profits actually went up by 30%. Kitna daba ke baitha tha, kitne time se you can imagine, right? 30% bought out deal. For the colleague, esteemed colleague, who said banks, can you switch over from one method to another? Yes. But if you do it very regularly, then there is a red flag that bankers will put and say, we need to talk to Mr. Shetty. We need to talk to Mr. Krishna. If you do it regularly, they take it as a sign of financial, I'm using a jargon, they take it as a sign of financial shenanigan. Financial shenanigan. It's a jargon, but some of you all wanted the project finance jargon. Can I simplify it? It is a sign of manipulation. Why mujhe kuch to Ashish Saab is playing around with numbers. I have to talk to him. Now you may ask a question, right? And Mr. Pranav, thanks for your introduction. Pawan sir, thanks for your introduction. How, right? How frequent is frequent? Any change once in 5 years, tolerable. Thank you. Any change once in 5 years, tolerable. If you do it, let's say 2 or 3 times in 5 years, rest assured there will be questions. Inventory valuation, okay. Depreciation change. Any change once in 5 years, I'm again repeating. Now please don't ask me, where is it written? I said I'm sharing experiences. Once in 5 years, no questions. If you are doing it, let's say every 2 years, every 3 years, then expect somebody to come and say, sir, please tell me, what is this happening? They may accept or reject it, Mr. Kamath, that is their choice, sir. But the fact is, if you are doing it very, very frequently, it's taken as a sign of financial shenanigans. I would love to take questions, and I'll start with you, sir. It's a word. I'll repeat this. It's got slightly technical, and I'm just concerned for some. We talked about plant and machinery. A quick recap. A esteemed colleague said, plant and machinery, thanks for that. Plant and machinery directly used in the production process. Furniture and fixture is supporting equipment. We had a good discussion on what is MOA and AOA and where does it go into line of business. A colleague also asked me what goes into, right, formation of MOA and AOA. Thanks for that also. We went into depreciation. We talked about 2 methods of depreciation. I took the liberty of not explaining SLM and WDV, right? I assume that, but if you want even more basic, not in the audience, right? In the tea break, I'll pull my cup of coffee and we'll discuss what's SLM and WDV. Don't want to invest time with a very august audience here. The only thing that I wanted you all to note in WDV and SLM is, WDV rates come from income tax roughly 3 times, right, SLM rates. It is higher, absolutely acknowledged. Income tax authorities are giving you a tax sheet which you can use. It's actually, as sir said, a tax deferral. You end up paying if you follow the same method over a period of time. Reporting can be SLM or WDV. Most of them use a simple SLM method. Can you switch over from SLM to WDV or WDV to SLM? The answer is yes. Then if you are provided excess depreciation, like in this case that we discussed, when he was using WDV, he had provided for more depreciation. So if you switch over from WDV to SLM, that excess depreciation that you are provided, thank you, you should add it back, okay? If you are at SLM and then you move to WDV here, then obviously you are provided less, you should provide more, you will subtract more depreciation. Can you do it? The answer is yes, it is legal. Is it ethical? Sorry, I can't answer, right? Incompetent to answer. Is it done in industry? Yes. Frequency of doing it is important. If it is done very frequently, my observations is once in 5 years, no questions asked. If it is done even more frequently, permitted, yes, questions will be asked. Most likely the banker will take your figure and knock it off and say that without this adjustment, what does the P&L look like? Yes, before, and coming from my colleague, I'm sure it's going to be a question. Any repetitions? Anything that you want me to repeat, at least those who are hitting the base? So I'll take questions, please. Very good. The switchover will happen, Pranav sir, as on a date, right? Taking into account all the retrospective effects. For example, these 2 years you were in WDV. So let us say you excess provided 30, This year you are switching from WDV to SLM. So as per SLM, you are supposed to provide only 50, but you provided by WDV, you provided 80. That means you excess provided by 30, excess that you provided by 30, you added back. Please.
Power companies do have an option of that.
For reporting? Lovely. So, can I take this? This is a very specific question, but I'll still take it, right? Thank you. Yes, allowed, provided it falls under the PPP model, right? And there is a financial viability which is certified, right? Please note. Now, I like this question because coming from CAPS background, I need to tell you, power, and also since you're very specific, right? Please use it, sir. Road projects also there, but these are special concessionary cases, sir. Special concessionary cases. Earlier it was available for ports, now it is not available for ports. Any other questions, please? I have a simple question to ask you all, right? And then I will outline 5 to 8, we'll have a tea break, and then we'll discuss 5 to 8, okay? There are 8 headings, it's as simple as that. Can I ask a very simple question? Why is everybody talking about pollution control equipment nowadays? Wherever you go to CII, Confederation of Indian Industry, everybody is talking green technology, pollution control. CSR, okay, ठीक है, corporate social, right? So can you be a bit louder?
100%
3 years back, 5 years back, and that was the birth of Suzlon, right? Right? Everywhere you go, windmill, windmill, windmill. NEPC has nothing to do with windmill, gets into windmill, right? Today everybody is talking about pollution control equipment. What is pollution control equipment, right? Green technology. Suddenly, yeah, it is a part of their CSR and they give you very good presentations on that. I respect that also, but there is also one more angle. Thank you very much, sir. It can only come from a consultant. Please understand, currently the depreciation rates is technically 100% for pollution control equipment. That means if you buy a pollution control equipment, right, if you buy a pollution control equipment, whatever you are spending in year 1, that entire amount, you can use it to claim a depreciation tax shield. Same logic works for windmill. Earlier, the windmill depreciation rate was 100%. Now, everybody has got into windmill. The government says, enough, I don't want windmill. So they have reduced the depreciation rate to 80%. Current thinking is, right, current thinking is pollution control equipment. And can I look at some colleagues and give you one small consulting advice? You may not use it on your own plant. You have, yes, you have surplus money you want to save on tax, you buy pollution control equipment, get the 100%. Now suppose you come back and say, I don't need it in my plant, lease it out. Just lease it out. Somebody else there may need that pollution control equipment to, one of my colleagues said, sorry, to comply with environmental norms, said was you, right, to environmental norms. He doesn't have the money, right? And please note, he is in a project. He is in a project where he does not need the tax shield, long gestation period. So he does not going to make money anyway in the first 3-4 years. So he doesn't need the tax shield. Tax shield when you need, when you are making money, right? It's like looking at ma'am and saying, okay, is your income less than your basic exemption limit? Then don't even talk about saving. Yaar, wo to hata hi de taxes is pe. So here is a client, if the client has excess money, the client can buy pollution control equipment, not for their personal use, buy it, ownership is with the lessor, lease it to somebody else who does not need the tax shield but needs that equipment. Kindly please be noted what we are talking on, last line, right? What we are talking on is lessor-lessee relationship. Lessor is the owner of an asset. The owner necessarily need not be using it. Lessee is typically the user of the asset. But on books, the owner owns the asset. So depreciation goes to the lessor. Perfect. Right? I'll be talking in greater detail on the types of leases, but very good. I'm just introducing now, right? But yes, I acknowledge what you said, but that I'd like to explain later. Lessor uses the depreciation benefit. Please note, if you have surplus money and the other guy does not have money, you want a tax shield, he does not need a tax shield. It's a mirror of each other. You can use this leasing transaction. I will get into types of leasing in means of finance. Please note number 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'll put it here with your permission. We'll take a break and discuss 5, 6, 7, 8 later. I'll shift these two, right? 5 stands for preliminary expenses. I'll explain and we'll discuss all of this, please, right? 6, pre-operative expenses. Pre-operative expenses. 7 is margin for working capital. 8 is miscellaneous costs, sector specific. Sector specific. So if you are going to buy a patent, it will come as miscellaneous costs, sector specific. Right? Mr. Arun would have something specific to his industry. So you would have something specific to your industry. You can put it here. Last, number 9. We have to discuss each of this. I will not discuss 8 in detail. You will share your experiences. I'm going to discuss 5, 6, 7, and 9. 9 is contingencies. I have just requested that we put down a noting here, right? When we come back, we'll discuss this in detail. We'll discuss this in detail. Let us have a 15-minute break. Come back, I'll switch this and we'll start with 5. Preliminary expenses. 8 headings, sir, actually. This one I have included, sir, to have specific industries in mind. Okay, so I complete 9, project costing is over. Then we'll talk about means of finance. Post-lunch, we'll have a discussion. Some of you all should be aware of a product known as ECBs, external commercial borrowings. Thank you, thank you. Right? And that's where, even in Delhi when I did it, I felt that many of you all need some clarifications there. So we'll do ECBs. And then yes, obviously last part, we'll talk about viability and we'll talk about NPV, IRR, what goes into that. I'll also be talking about PPP and mood structure. Right? I'll definitely focus on that. But at this point, I want to start off again by saying preliminary expenses. Preliminary, sorry, I need to get started. I'm sure the colleague will join in. Preliminary expenses is nothing but to do with incorporation of the company. So what is a preliminary expenses, right? Mr. Shobit, it goes as legal expenses. Mr. Krishna, marketing expenses, sir. Marketing expenses. Can I, with your permission, sir, call it as market research? An esteemed colleague was talking about CLB and others, right? Incorporation expenses. Can I have some more headings, please, of preliminary expenses? Land acquisition expenses is a good answer. Right? One sec. Sandeepji, that will go as land cost. It will not come as right preliminary expenses. You are right. It is a cost, but it goes as land cost. Yes, ma'am. Stamp duty, yes. Stamp duty, yes. Stamp duty towards land will go as land cost. But yes. No. Stamp duty paid for registration of the company will come here. Pranab sir, can you be a bit louder? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Consultancy charges. We have esteemed colleagues. Ma'am was just talking about, briefly, she was telling about her function. Whatever we are paying her, that will go as preliminary, absolutely. Deloitte, obviously, right? Yes, sir. Brokerage towards purchase of land, senior, then land cost. Then land cost. That is directly attributable to land. Agreed. Licenses, Doc, you're right, licenses. Incidentally, that licenses you can write, Mr. Krishna, may, the entrepreneur that he is, right, Mr. Samir may put it as miscellaneous cost. It's your choice. I will still accept it and put it as preliminary expenses. You know why? Because I think we are talking about all the other items, but not the major item. Legal expenses, agreed, agreed. Documentation expenses, agreed. I'm looking at some colleagues. We are talking about all the smaller expenses, but not that, right? Authorized capital senior, right? Agreed, sir. It will be a part of preliminary expenses.
Sir, interest on construction?
No, it's not preliminary. Sandeep, na name? Am I getting the name right? Sandeep, you are right, but it's not preliminary. It is pre-operative. We are still on preliminary. Sir also was talking about that.
So other administrative expenses,
Labor, right, and other operational expenses, ma'am, is not preliminary. Your company takes a decision, and this cost will just come as the major preliminary expense. Excuse me, I'm the last person to say this is wrong. Huh? These are all very wonderful points. I have accepted it in absolute humility, saying thank you. But what I'm trying to say is, if your company takes a decision, this would be hardly 20%, okay, 30% of preliminary expenses. There's one more heading which is your major preliminary expenses, and that goes with one of the bigger decisions that you will possibly take, sir. You will definitely take over a period of time. We are coming very close, and I'd like to acknowledge you. Thank you very much. I'll only change this as public issue expenses. I'm sorry, I should have left some space here. Public issue expenses. Thank you. This is an expense which comes into being if you decide to go public. If some of you all are going to say, no, Mr. Menon, we have taken a strategic decision never to go public, Sudhir sir, then this does not come into your picture. But I am sure when I talk to entrepreneurs, somewhere down the line, their aim is to grow. And I'm sure nobody is going to close a window out. They might even consider this. If you are considering this, and if you are already a listed company, public issue expense is your major preliminary expense. Which leads me to ask a question. One second, Pradhan sir, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And just to get the flow through. This is a very nice colleague who was I was just talking to because I said, wonderful audience. I want to ask this to Mayur sir. What do you think, sir? And there's a reason why I came to you. What do you think is public issue expenses as a percentage of issue size? What would it be? Give me a percentage, senior. Okay, no problem, sir. Your first question was, I felt you had some experience. No problem. Anybody? Take your time. 5-6%. Cyrus says 5-6%. Great. 5-6%. I don't know. 5-6% says. Pardon, senior? 0.5%. 0.01%. Okay. So I have three ranges. Now I have to pick, right? I told you this is a practical session, and I like the way some of you all said, can we have some grounding in practice? So I'm going to raise my voice. Public issue expenses are 7 to 10% of your issue size. Smaller the issue, higher the percentage. Public issue expenses are, let me say this clearly to you all. I know it's defined in textbooks in a good way. I know it's very well defined in textbooks in a good way. Incidentally, before I continue discussion further, right, thanks to Mr. Vikas of Princeton, we have arranged for a, right, after Delhi, right, we realized that some of you are starting from the base. So we have arranged for a, we in Princeton have arranged a textbook for you all on project finance, okay. Only problem, as sir was saying is, right, not all the copies have arrived. So those who are outstation, right, I believe about 13 odd copies have arrived. Those who are outstation should collect your copies now. Those who are from Mumbai, right, those who are from Mumbai, please give your address, or rather they have it, they will have, Princeton will courier it latest by Wednesday. What I am discussing is there on the website. But those who are starting from the base, you know, and you want to know, right, that's a good textbook, okay, and I again obliged to Princeton for that. Please note, issue expenses, smaller the issue, higher the percentage. So if you are talking of a 100 crore issue, I hope it is communicated. 15 crores तो आप समझ के जाओ कि आपका issue expenses है. Because some of these expenses are fixed expenses. Incidentally, each of these answers was right. Moment you start scaling up, then your 5 to 6% matters. Because you see, most of these expenses are fixed. I'll give you some expenses. I'm not getting into an issue management discussion. I'm not getting into, but I need to tell you, please understand, you have to release some mandatory press ads. Thank you for nodding. Sir, no Times of India, no free press tells you, right? Free press incidentally is the one where the maximum advertisements come. Okay, and so those of you all who are considering release of advertisements, please look at free press because it is the cheapest to advertise. It's the cheapest to advertise. Okay, and by the definition of SEBI, it falls as a nationally read newspaper. It falls under a definition of nationally read newspaper. Please, other way of putting it is, if you're looking for some public notices, keep subscribing to free press. Times of India, free press, even free press for that matter, even though it is cheap, free press does not talk like this. Free press does not tell you, excuse me, Mr. Kamath, you are a small company, so I'll charge you lower. Thank you for smiling. That's the way it operates here. The rack rates, in fact, will be lower for Reliance Power because it is giving number of advertisements. Along with mandatory ads, it is also doing product ads. Next requirement. Ask me. I am from the investment banking field. Some of you all will be upset when I say this, but I keep telling my kids, FMB kids, don't think small. If you are thinking small, this system is going to go against you. So some expenses. You have to send prospectus and forms to investor associations. Mandatory requirement, don't look at me like this. I have no answer. Minimum 1 lakh. Not defined as per your size. So even if you are running 10 crore ka issue la rahe ho, to be 1 lakh. Where is this requirement? I don't understand. But anyway, I leave it to the august audience to understand. I have no complaints, but I think you need to have a grading structure. Point to be noted, smaller the issue, higher the percentage. If you are a bigger issue, then you are right. What the textbook teach, 5%, 6% of issue size. A esteemed colleague talked about 0.5%. I agree with that also. But 0.5% is for public sector companies. Where for public sector companies, investment bankers don't charge any fees. And that's why sir said that. And ONGC, right? And SBI, when it comes out with an issue, SBI Caps or a Kotak Mahindra does not charge any fees. There they are ready to do it free of cost. I'll tell you why. Nobody is doing charity. They are doing it free of cost because then their name will come on the league tables. They will be top 1, top 2, top 3. So they will come on the league tables because they are top 2, top 3 on the league tables. They will get fresh business. उसके लिए NTPC का issue रहेगा. An investment banker will go and say, I'll do it free. Others, minimum 5%. Smaller the size, that figure can go to 7%. Some of these guys, I will not like to name them. I don't want to name them publicly. Some of these guys will say, Arey, we don't look at any issues less than 100 crores. Who will put manpower there? Thank you. Right? Please note, my point is made, preliminary expenses. If you are going public, practical input. If you are going public, please think bigger. If you are not able to think bigger, forget it. Look at private equity and venture capitalists. Right? Private equity and venture capitalists, I'll just give you 2 to 3 lines. Mr. Manish Bansal is an authority. He conducts workshops for Princeton on 1 day full on private equity. Right? I want to communicate from my limited experiences. Private equity are nothing but strategic investors who want to invest in companies which want to grow bigger. Venture capitalists are entities which invest in new ideas. I'm again repeating. If you are big, you want big lot, think of going public. If you don't want very high requirements, and when I say very high requirements, subjectively, Pranav sir, I'm saying 100 crores. If you read less than 100 crores, then please don't even look at going public. Go to strategic investors. Shailesh sir, strategic investors, right, Krishna, is private, thank you sir, private equity and venture capitalists. Private equity, Sudhir sir, invest in companies which want to grow bigger, like Mr. Sameer's company. Already there, doing well, private equity guy will come in. Harish sir, venture capitalists will invest in new ideas. Looking at Sudhir sir for a reason. Sir, venture capitalists are very few in India. Most of the deals that are happening is in the private equity space, including LIC, including ICICI Ventures. ICICI, with due respects, call themselves as ICICI Ventures, but if you go with a proposal to them, by default they will tell you, I'm happy with your idea, but I would rather prefer you set up the project and come to us for scaling up the project. Then I think we can't call it as a standard venture capitalist. It has to be a private equity. 80% of the deal, right, Pawan sir, 80 to 90% India is still, thank you, private equity. 10-20% is venture capitalists. I'm not ruling it out. The fact of the matter is, when you are talking about preliminary expenses, we are talking about issue expenses. And here I am on the route of private equity and VCs. Want to invest 5 more minutes on that, and then I want to get into the accounting treatment. So we said private equity one last time, right? For the colleagues who are just getting exposed, private equity invest in companies which want to grow bigger. Venture capitalists invest in ideas. Some of you all wanted IRR percentages. Private equity, keep in mind an IRR of 20 to 24%. Equity IRR. Very nice question. Equity IRR. Equity IRR of, for those of you who are wondering what is IRR, today, before you walk out, I'll cover it. It's a promise. Just accept it for the time being, please. IRR stands for, that's a nice query, sir. Internal rate of return, 20 to 24%. VCs are taking more risk. VCs are taking more risk. This is for the colleague who said, give us that industry exposure. Please note, VCs, since they are taking more risk, they will not touch a project unless they see an IRR of more than 40%. Upwards of 40%. Upwards of 40%, Pawan sir.
It is like cost of capital at which they lend to the...
Unko 40% chahiye. If they are, I will take your question. 1 second, sir. If they are investing at 100, unko chahiye. Can I take your question after 2 minutes, sir? Just 2 minutes, sir, please. Right? Excuse me, what do these guys do? I'll take all questions, sir. These guys will invest in the company. When they invest in the company, they will have 2 things in mind. One is investment due diligence, which is where they get this Deloitte and, right, and all of them involved. Legal, they do it with Little and Company. They do everything, all this planning, they do it with Little and Company. But ma'am, what is important is, whether it is a P or a VC, along with investment, they also keep in mind disinvestment. Side by side thinking, they are not married to any company. And it is, let's get this, you may not like it, but it is the way it is. Side by side, they are thinking of, right, they are thinking of how to disinvest. Mr. Mayank was asking this question. Rather, he was bringing a noting. He said, if they invested 100 and 40% means they should make 140. When they leave in 1 year, they want 140. Normally, they invest for 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years. This is idea hai, to thoda aur time lagega, 5 to 7 years. Okay. These are all thumb rules, sir. Please don't say, is it written somewhere? Thumb rules. This is a practical discussion, please. Okay. Yes, yes, that's exactly what I'm coming to. 1 second, ma'am. Please note, which is where they will look at how do you disinvest. And the first way they will disinvest, and I am not addressing private equity or VCs. I am addressing the other side of the table. So can I be a bit biased and partial and telling you, please understand, it is in your favor that when you sign a disinvestment agreement with a PE or a VC, please tell your clients that the first way of disinvesting should be, the first route of disinvesting should be, the first route, it is in their interest, should be buyback by the promoters. Buyback by the promoters. Can I explain this first? It is Mr. Krishna's hard-earned company, Sameer's hard-earned company. He has worked his way through. I would rather, Silas sir would do it henceforth. I would rather always advise you that the first thing you should write in the disinvestment is, when the PE or a VC wants to exit, he should first give the right to the promoters. Why? मैं जा रहा हूँ. Can you buy it at this price to give me my IRR? Sir has asked the question. My internal rate of return, if you're finding it tough, just let's say return at this point of time. Can you give me my 24? Like, for example, I came in at 100, buy it at a price so that I make a return of 20% per annum. Agreed? This buyback by promoters, this is known as, a bit of technical jargons, lovely, it is known as ROFR. I heard that, thank you. ROFR, the word ROFR actually stands for right of first refusal. So it is in the promoter's interest that they include this clause of buyback. It is their first right of refusal, right of first refusal. If you do not include this clause, I'm raising my voice one last time. If you do not include the clause, then the strategic investors can do right number 2 and number 3. Promoters are advised to take this as first, right of first refusal. If the promoters say no, then the second clause is sale to other investors. One second, please, I'll take all questions. Humble request, please. Sale to other investors. Here the clause should be with NOC. I'll start the question answers with Mr. Krishna. Thank you for your patience. Right, and then all other queries also. NOC, no objection. And I want to ask a question, and this can go to, I've been interacting, so thanks for that, very quick response. Shaya ma'am, who do you think, I know you're not from the field, but I'm asking a simple logical question ma'am, just to get you involved. Who do you think will give the highest price for a company shares? I know it will be difficult for you to think like that, but can you think markets, competition, right, entrepreneurship, who do you think will give highest price for a company shares? That's why I didn't ask you, sir. Just to initiate, ma'am. For them, it will be like, right? No idea? Here, tell us, sir, loudly. Thank you. That's it, sir. Bas, enough. Competition, ma'am. It's a dog-eat-dog word there. Right? You are from LIC. It's a respected public sector undertaking, but you will be dealing, right, in these cases. Please understand. That's why the NOC clause. Mr. Krishna should put, Sameer should put his foot down and say, hello, anybody else except Mr. Menon. Why? Mr. Menon is a competitor, damn it. So what? He is paying the private equity guy 5 rupees more. I don't want this guy in. Sale to other investors in your clause. It should be an NOC clause. And the third way of exiting. The third way of exiting should be through an offer for sale to the public. Offer for sale to the public. What is offer for sale to the public? An offer for sale to the public essentially means, the private equity and VC who's holding shares in your company is now offering their stake to the public and getting listed. Thank you. Getting listed. But please note, this, if I am advising you, and I am today, should be the third option. And in that, please note, you should be strategic. You should be very, very clear that it is in the interest of the promoters, of the company, of the client to always include what is known as a tag-along clause. I will take 2 more minutes, then I'll repeat this, I'll allow to take questions, right? Tag-along clause. I am keeping it technical, but I have to keep a practical course. What is a tag-along clause, Shaya ma'am? Deepa ma'am, a tag-along clause is when the private equity or venture capitalist is exiting, the promoters of the company have the option to tag along with them. Okay, Mr. Private Equity, you are exiting, you are giving your shares to the public. Anyway, you are preparing the prospectus. Anyway, you are appointing investment bankers. Anyway, you are doing marketing, that is known as road shows. Along with your stake, we the promoters, we have also decided that we will offer 10% of our stake. That 10% of the stake which the promoters are offering, that money towards that 10% goes to the promoters. Please note, the term is tag along. Tag along is optional for the promoters. So when the, listen to this very carefully my friend, when the private equity or VCs are exiting, the promoters are also tagging along at their option. For this crowd, I don't need to repeat this again. The beauty of tagging along is, we come a full circle now. The beauty of tagging along is, public issue expenses will be shared. वो 12% आपके ऊपर थोड़ी आएगा अभी. 12% expenses, let us say, both of you are offering half, will be split. 6% will be borne by, right, the private equity player, another 6% will be borne by the promoters. That was where we started. Public issue expenses are 10 to 12%. It is too huge. I wanted a route how to avoid that. Here is it, tag along, but for God's sake. Tag along is optional, for God's sake. As far as possible. As far as possible. Avoid, I am addressing companies, I am not addressing PEVCs. I am addressing companies. Please avoid a drag along clause. What's a drag? Technical, but useful things. Drag along means, can I simplify it, Bharti ma'am? Drag along basically means, sir, drag along means the private equity guy or the VC can drag the promoters along. Promoters don't have an option. It is compulsory. So that means I'll take questions. Always a pleasure. The pre-VC decide, देखो मैं तो जा रहा हूँ, I am offering my 10%, and for some reason, for some listing guidelines, I want you also to offer 10%. If there is a drag along clause, Mr. Shetty has no option, he has to give it. Tag along is optional, drag along is compulsory. Can I again repeat this one last time? Drag along clause should be avoided as far as possible, Samir ji. And in case the PEVC insists, no, we will not disburse money. No, sir, we don't do deals unless we have a drag along clause. And if you still want to go with that private equity or VC, you still want to go, tell us, sir, then advise your clients, ask for a higher premium. Simple. Everything boils down here only, no? See, I don't want a, thank you for smiling, I don't want a drag along clause. You want a drag along clause, then only you will invest. Okay. What is the share pricing you have done? 300 rupees. Please make it 310 rupees. ये सब negotiations है. Please make it 320 rupees. Why that 10 rupees, 20 rupees more? Because a drag along clause is absolutely inimical to the promoter's interest. And since I agreed to it, I want a higher valuation. End of the matter. You don't want to give that 20 rupees more? Fair enough. Let's have a 300 rupees simple clause. Invest. End of the matter. As simple as that. Three things. We talked about PEVC. We looked at their investment patterns. We looked at their disinvestment patterns. I said ROFR, NOC, drag along, tag along. Before I take questions, and I can see some colleagues who are interested, can I take any repetitions from the colleagues who are hearing it for the first time? Sorry if I've gone fast. Lovely. So I'll take questions. Salisa, you put up your hand first. So I'll take yours first. Then I'll go to Mr. Krishna. Answered? Answered. Pleasure. Yeah. Sir. PEVC. Krishna sir, one sec. P and VC, P was 20 to 24% and VC was greater than 40%. Please. Yes. Very nice question. I have not seen them change their return expectations with deal size, because I'll take all questions. Deal size, they are also investing that much. Deal size goes into effect, Mr. Krishna, whether they will accept or reject the deal itself, not this. So some bigger players, without naming anybody, they don't look at anything. Some of you all will know it. They don't even look at companies less than a particular size. But having looked at a company, this will be their return expectations. Your question, to answer it straight on, deal size does not affect IRR expectations. Please.
Is it very specific about, like, some Swiss banks are looking at PE funds, look at something and other? Is there some specific?
Currently, there's a lot of money which is flowing into logistics. Currently, there is a lot of money which is going into low-cost housing. Currently, they are very comfortable with, if you ask me, education, though I don't think education is business, but today that's become a business, right? Currently, anything to do with social infrastructure, big time money. Currently, anything to do with microfinance is a strict no. 1 year back, you say microfinance, they will come to you. Now, if you say microfinance, all changed, right? That is why I keep looking at some of my colleagues and saying, time is good now, do it now. Maybe after some time, you may not even realize that they will not look at the sector. Currently, time is good for, okay, right? Thank you for smiling. Hospitality and other allied services. I'll tell you what happens, sir, how it works. These guys put money. Then 1 or 2 deals, they lose money. They lose interest in that sector. Oh, jab tak SKS tha, they made money. Everybody said microfinance. Then Andhra government came with their ordinance. Now, even if it is a good microfinance project, they'll say, no, we are not. So ultimately, where does a PE or a VC get its funds from? A PE or a VC gets a fund from a feeder fund, which is going to attract investors. Investors will look at India and see what is the best sector now. If the sector is good according to them, they will support the PE. PE VCs do not technically invest their own money. They always gather it from high net worth individuals. I'll take all questions. Yeah, ma'am, please. I'll come to you, sir. Always a pleasure.